Hello, this is AMET 104, lecture recording week 1.1. This is the first recording of the class Topics in Contemporary Mathematics, and my name is Michaela Park. I'm your instructor for this semester. So in today's recording, we are basically going to go over the brief overview of what the class is going to be like, going through the syllabus, other administrative things, and maybe if we have enough time, we will go over just a little bit in the first chapter. So we have an email here. So my email is mpark4@albany.edu, and my physical office is ES Earth Science 213. However, this class is a fully online class, hence we would not have a classroom and we would not have any physical office hours. So even if you go to my office, there's nobody there. So the best way to reach me is through email. So the office hour for this class is during the regular class period. So it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 10:20 a.m. This is because this class is going to be fully asynchronous class, meaning that you will be given pre-recorded videos on Blackboard, and so we would not have any live classes like this. So, however, during our regular class period, we were going to have office hour. So since it's an office hour, you're not required to be there. But if you have any questions or if you have any clarification, if you need any clarifications, that's where I will be. So the course material. So we're going to use this book called Excursions in Modern Mathematics, ninth edition by Peter Tannenbaum. The course material is required. However, you are not supposed to buy a used book. This is because for homework assignments and quizzes, we are going to use online resource called Pearson through my math lab. That means you would actually need a access code to the Pearson. The way to get it is either you purchase a brand new book, which the access code will be in there. However, a cheaper option for you, which is a recommended option, is to go on the Pearson website and just purchase the access code there. If you do so, you'll gain instant access to the course materials there, and you will also get an access to ebook. So you can always have it in hand with instant access there. So I'm going to repeat, the course material is required, but I recommend you to go to Pearson website and getting the access directly instead of trying to buy a physical book. If you do prefer to have physical book, if you think it's necessary for you, it is totally fine. But if you purchase a used textbook, it's not going to work because it's not going to have any access code in there. So this class is not a rigorous class. We're not going to go over anything rigorous mathematically. However, we're going to learn more about something that's more applicable to real life, not like trying to find a derivative of this function or anything like that. But it does require you to have 2 years of high school mathematics. I'm sure all of you do. So if you need a brief overview of algebra, I will recommend you just refreshing your memory. So the grading policy. So we have here the homework, assignments, quizzes, and two exams, and we have a final. So homework assignment is 25% of the entire grade, and you're going to get about 5 homework assignments throughout the semester. Each assignment is not long at all. They should only take you less than an hour. However, since there are only 5 assignments, each assignment is 5%. And if you miss one, that's going to be a lot, I guess. For the quizzes, you have about 3 quizzes throughout the semester. That also comes down to about 5%. And it's basically the same way as the homework. It's just named differently. I'll go over that a little more later. We're going to have 2 midterms, and they're both going to be online through Pearson. So as you can see, the homework assignments, quizzes, and 2 midterms are all in Pearson. So this is why you need to get the Pearson access as soon as possible. Exams, they're basically also the same as quizzes and homework assignments, but you'll just have a little more restrictions. And since it's an exam, it's 15% of the entire grade for each exam. So it just has more weight. For the final, is 30%. It's not an exam. It's going to be more like a final assessments or more like worksheet. I'll explain a little more later. Yes, the course delivery will be the fully online course, asynchronous, meaning that all the delivery will be through pre-recorded videos. And since this is a 3 credit course, you will have 3 hours worth of videos each week, either in forms of 3 different videos or 2 different videos. Let's go over to homework. So here in the link is how it basically gives you the step-by-step procedure, how to get the access and get course ID to my class that's already set up. So if you actually click on there, or if you copy and paste it into your browser, it'll tell you what to do step by step. So my course ID is PARK34962. And as I said, there will be 5 homework assignments. However, each of them would worth about 5%. So I do recommend you to get the access to Pearson as soon as possible, because if you have any trouble gaining access for whatever reason, you'll at least have some time to spare to ask me questions or contact the Pearson support to find out what the problem is. So do not wait until the last minute. Please do so as soon as possible, because otherwise you won't be able to access any of your homework assignments, quizzes, or anything like that. So quizzes are basically the same thing as homework assignments. So I forgot to mention, the homework assignments are simply, it's going to give you unlimited time. You will not have any time limit. There's only gonna be a handful amount of questions in each homework assignment, and it shouldn't take you too long. But it's okay to take your time, because you're not timed, and if you get anything wrong, it'll tell you it is wrong or right. So, and you can always change it if you get it wrong. So you can always plan accordingly and try to get the best grades in the homework. Quizzes are the same thing. So quizzes are basically the same thing. It has a little more restriction than homework assignments, but you still have unlimited amount of tries. and the best grade is chosen. So, meaning that if you do your first attempt in the quiz, it'll tell you the grade. And if you're not happy with your grade in this particular quiz, you can choose to take the quiz again. And at the end, your best grade will be counted towards the grade. So the exams, the midterms are simply very similar to the quizzes, but a little more restrictions. Instead of having unlimited number of tries, you'll have a set number of tries and you'll also be timed. However, you will at least have multiple chances to make up for your attempts if you are not happy with your first attempt. Both quizzes and online exams, they are open book and open notes. Um, Regularly, if this was a traditional class, it would be closed book, closed notes. But since it's an online class, there's no way for me to enforce that. So it's going to be open book and open notes. You may use a calculator. It'll be very helpful, but you're not allowed to use any other electronic devices like your computer, phone to go online and search for answers. So the final exam is going to be in the PDF worksheet form. It's going to be very similar to one of the long assignments you did in high school. However, it's not going to be long. It's only going to be like 4 to 5 questions, and it shouldn't take you too long. You will get more information about it later. However, as I mentioned, since it's a worksheet instead of the exam, it's not going to be on Pearson. Um, you'll get more information later, but please monitor the Blackboard for more information. So schedules. So I normally go over 6 different chapters in one semester when I teach this class. And I have noticed that with the online delivery, a delivery is not as fluent or fluid as how it would be like. So I redacted to 4, so meaning that we're gonna take a little more time going over each chapter, and you'll have more spaced out materials. Um, yeah, about the course delivery, I taught the same class in the same delivery method last semester. So most of the videos, a lot of the videos actually, are from last semester. And unless they're unless they need some revision, I'm basically going to reuse them again. If you have any questions, you can always contact me. You can come to my office hour. You can email me, and that's the best way to reach me. So important dates. So midterm 1 on the exam 1 will be available from March 12th through March 19th. That's exactly 1 week. That's going to be week 6, Friday. And same for midterm 2. And that's going to be exactly 1 week. And that's week 10, Friday. The final schedule is, since it's not an exam, I'm not going to give a time final. So, meaning that it's not a final exam. So, instead of giving the final during the exam week, I decided to use the last week of the class, which is May 3rd to May 10th, to give the final. It's more like a homework assignment, just a little bigger. The grading scale, I use the traditional grading scale. So if you're in the 90s range, you're going to get an A. If you're in the 80s range, you're going to get a B, and so on and so forth. I currently do not plan on curving the grades. So if you ask me in the middle of the semester if I'm planning on curbing any grades? My answer will be no. However, it'll all depend on how everybody else is doing. So, so I'm just trying to make it clear that my current plan for the grading is not to be on a curve. So the makeup policy. So late assignments are not okay. Each homework assignment is very small, and you really should be able to finish the homework assignment in less than an hour. Usually, each assignment is half a dozen problems. But I know that emergencies can happen. I understand that sometimes unforeseen life events could happen, and that's totally fine. You can always contact me beforehand and ask for extensions or ask for accommodations. That's totally acceptable. That goes the same way for the quizzes and exams. Um, Usually for the quizzes and exams during the traditional class period, we would have it in class exams and in class quizzes. That would mean that if you miss a quiz or an exam, that means that you're not in the classroom. So usually, if that happens, I would ask for some sort of proof or doctor's notes in order for you to actually get the makeup exams or makeup quiz. However, since everything is done online in this case, that's not going to be the case. But if you really need an extension or makeup quizzes or exams, please do contact me before the due date. If you contact me before the due date, even if it's the day before the due date, it's totally fine. I mean, things can happen and it happens to all of us. However, if you contact me after it was due and tell me, oh, something happened, that's not okay. That just tells me it's a poor planning. So, as long as you ask politely, if you are reasonable, and if you ask before the due date, and if you act proactively, it's usually going to go well. So, one last thing, the special accommodation. If you, for whatever reason, need any special accommodation for this classroom, please contact me as soon as possible so we can try to arrange what the best option is for you. Usually during traditional classes, students who need special accommodations would come to me and ask for extensions for their exams, as in longer time for the exams. And usually I would refer the students to the testing center, and they would normally handle everything like that. But because it's an online class, that probably isn't applicable in this case. However, if you believe that you need some sort of special accommodation or attention, it's totally fine. Please contact me so we can figure out something that's agreeable to both of you, or both of us, sorry. Okay, that's it. So without a further ado, let's go over the first chapter. So we're gonna go from chapter 9, population growth models. So this is my first time using this pad, so please bear with me. Hopefully my writings will get better. I'm going to try to write as slow as possible so it's at least legible. So chapter 9.1 is about sequence and population series. no, sequence and population sequences. So to record this, I'm actually using the Microsoft OneNote to write on this pad. But I've noticed that this is a little glitchy. Sometimes it won't load properly. Sometimes it'll cut out. This is actually my second time recording this. So if you guys have any suggestions on better board, I'm open to it. So, okay, so today we're gonna talk about sequence only. So what is a sequence? So obviously sequence has a lot of meanings in everyday terms, but in mathematics, sequence does have a very specific meaning. So let's define sequence first. So sequence is an infinite and ordered list of numbers. So in principle, it can be any list of numbers as long as there's infinite and ordered. Any number, any list of numbers can be sequenced. So for example, let's talk about the easier ones. Let's talk about, how about positive numbers? We can have positive numbers. So these are the examples. We can also have the sequence of negative numbers. And sequence of rational numbers. And sequence of irrational numbers. And it could actually be sequence of zeros. So that'll be something like 0, 0, 0. So there doesn't need to be any changes in numbers. It doesn't have to increase or decrease. Constant zeros can also be sequenced. So because the sequence is infinite, it has to be infinite list of numbers. At the end, as I wrote it here, we would say ... at the end, or we would write it and so on. Let's look at some examples. So for example, number 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 will be the powers of 2s. And obviously we would have to write ... at the end. So obviously, because it's a infinite set of numbers, you would eventually have to stop. So how do we determine how many terms are enough? So in this case, I wrote 6 terms, and that was enough for us to say that this is powers of 2s. But what if there were, let's say, 1, 2, 4, 8? So now there are 4 terms. And it's still, to me, I think it's enough. This is 4 terms is also enough. But let's look at a different example. So here we're trying to determine how many terms are enough. So let's look at this example. What about 3, 5, and 7, and somebody left it like that? How would you define this list of numbers? So 3, 5, 7, they're all odd numbers, so it's easy to think that it is the list of odd numbers. Which is correct, because they're all odd numbers. But what if somebody says this may be the list of odd prime numbers? Which is also true. So which is correct? So obviously we can see that in this case, 3 terms were not enough. Wasn't enough to tell if it was the list of odd numbers or the sequence of odd prime numbers. If it was the list of odd numbers, it would continue with 9, 11, 13, 15, ... Whereas if it was odd prime numbers, it would be 11, 13, 17, 19, ... So as we can see, there is really no hard set rule on how many terms is necessary. There is no such thing as necessary set of numbers. But so the numbers we write, so number, let's say number of terms. Let's go to the eraser. So number of terms we write at the front end before we appeal to the ... is subjective decision. The idea is to write enough terms so that a reasonable third party looking at the sequence can figure out how the sequence continues. So as we do not have a very hard set number on this, unless otherwise specified, when in doubt, it's always safer to write a couple more. And that's going an extra mile is always a better practice. How about, let's look at a little bit of an exotic example. So this is another example. So the first term of the sequence is 1. Let's say the second term is 1, 1. The third term is, let's say, 2, 1. So I wrote 3 terms in the sequence. Is this enough to tell what the fourth term is? If it is, I mean, I'm very, very impressed. The fourth term, let's say, is 1, 2, 1, 1. And the fifth term is 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. Is 5 terms enough for you to guess the sixth term? So the sixth term is 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. And seventh term, let's say, is 1, 3, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1. I know this doesn't look very promising. So I've already given 7 terms in the sequence, and this doesn't look like any of the sequence of numbers that you probably have encountered before. I'm gonna give you a little more hint and give you the next one. So this one is 1, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 1. Let's end it here. So that is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I just gave 8 terms. So what's the 9th term? I'm gonna give you a minute to think about this. Usually, if this was an in-person class, I would encourage you to participate and throw some ideas, but I'm just going to give you the answer after maybe about a minute. So have you guys thought about this? So the first term in the sequence is 1, second is 1, 1, or 11, or 21, 12, 11. I guess this is 111,221. So there's a reason why I didn't read out this number as if these are 111,221. There was a little hint there. So instead of reading like a normal numbers, I read each digit. So 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, instead of saying 1, 11, 21, and so on. So here's the thing. So first term is determined as just 1. It's a given. And the second term of the sequence is to read out the previous term. So for example, in the second term, you're reading the first term. So you have 1, 1 in the first term. So that's why you have 1, 1. And the third term, now you have 2 1s. So you have 2, 1. And the fourth term, now you're reading the previous term, which is the third term. So you have 1, 2, and 1, 1. The fifth term will be 1, 1, 1, 2, 2 1s. Does that make sense? So let's go all the way to the 8th term. And now for the 9th term, what do we have? So in the 9th term, we're reading out, we're describing the previous term, which is the 8th term. So this is the 8th term. And if you're reading out, we have 1, 1. No, we do not have 1, 1. We have 3 1s. We have 1, 3. We have 1, 2, and 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, and 2 1s. So there's your 9th term of the sequence. And obviously you can go on and on and on with this, and hence it is an infinite series. So let's talk about the notation. So in mathematics, the notations is very important. Different notations denote different things, and it is very easy to mix up, and hence notations is very easy to notation makes math easier. Let's put it that way. Notations. So a generic sequence can be written in infinite list form as A1, A2, A3, A4, ... So these numbers, these are subscripts. These are not, so these are subscript. These are not a 1 like this. It is a and subscript 1, it's a small one. This is very important. So here, let's scroll down a little bit. The A is, so A is a variable representing a symbolic name for the sequence. And each term of the sequence is described by the sequence name and numerical script. And this numerical subscript represents the position of the term in the sequence. So this means, simply put, that A sub 1, so this is actually read A sub 1 represents the first term of the sequence. And A sub 2 represents the second term of the sequence. And if you say A sub 5, as you had guessed, this means the fifth term of the sequence. And when you say for any n, where n represents any integer or any natural number, is the nth term of the sequence. Does that make sense? So I think I'm going to end the class here, but so next class we are going to go over a couple more examples with the sequence in 9.1 before we go into 9.2, which is about the linear growth model. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you should email me, and that's the best way to approach me. I'm normally very quick in responding emails, normally within an hour, but if not, you should still expect my response within a day is the latest. So if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please email me. And my email can be found in Blackboard and under syllabus, but this is my email. Is M-P-A-R-K, Park is my last name, and number 4 at albany.edu is my email. So, oh, and before we end the video, I would like to remind you to get Pearson access, MyMathLab, And this is very important because you will not be able to do any of the homework without this. And I guess I will see you in the next video. Well, thank you.